Story 1. Aida for cutting all contact with my family because of a prank? Original post, December 18th, 2024. So I have posted a story on here before, and I got some pretty good advice, so please help. Here's what happened. I, 27F, have always had a complicated relationship with my family. They've always been the type of people who think any joke is fine as long as someone laughs, no matter who gets hurt. Over the years, I've tried to brush it off and not let it bother me too much, but this time they crossed a line I can't ignore. Recently, I achieved something big in my life. I bought my first home after saving for years. It's something I worked incredibly hard for, sacrificing vacations, nights out, and basically anything extra to make it happen. I was beyond proud of myself and excited to finally have a place to call my own. Naturally, I wanted to share this milestone with my family, even though our relationship has always been rocky. A few weeks ago, we had a family dinner to celebrate my new home. Everything seemed fine at first. They congratulated me, asked about the house, and seemed genuinely happy for me. But halfway through the night, my brother, 30M, and sister, 25F, handed me an envelope. They said it was a surprise to help me with my house. I opened it, and inside was what looked like a legal notice stating that my house purchase had been canceled because of a clerical error, and that it was now being sold to someone else. It even had an official-looking letterhead, my name, and details about the house. I was in complete shock. Everyone around the table started laughing, and my brother yelled, "Gotcha!" Turns out they had faked the letter and thought it would be hilarious to see my reaction. I burst into tears, which only made them laugh harder. They even recorded the whole thing on their phones to post on social media. When I finally managed to speak, I told them how cruel this was. Buying this house was the biggest thing I'd ever done, and they turned it into a joke at my expense. Their response? "You're so sensitive. It was just a prank. Lighten up." I left the dinner early, completely heartbroken. A few days later, I decided I'd had enough. This wasn't the first time they'd pulled a prank like this. Over the years, they've humiliated me countless times, once ruining a job interview outfit by accidentally spilling coffee on it, another time pretending to lose my dog just to see me panic. I cut off all contact. I didn't make a scene, I just stopped responding to messages, blocked them on social media, and declined invites to family events. Now, I'm getting guilt-tripping messages from extended family saying I'm being selfish and tearing the family apart. My mom even left me a voicemail crying about how much she misses me and begging me to come back, but I can't bring myself to forgive them. This prank felt like the final straw, and I don't see how I can trust them again. So, Reddit, Ada for cutting off my family over this prank? Top comment. Best confidence, 1,560. You're rightfully upset because it wasn't a prank. It was bullying. The "it was just a joke" BS is something every bully does to justify humiliating people. They thought it would be fun to upset you on your big night and then take videos of it and post it on social media? And your mother is crying that she misses you? No, she had an opportunity there to rip them a new one about their behavior and about treating you with kindness and respect. And she thought it would be better to go along with the prank. You deserve better than this. I'm glad you finally decided to call an end to their bullying. Don't let them or any extended family members pressure you into doing anything you don't want to do. I'm sorry that they couldn't just be happy for you for your achievement. Congratulations on your new home. Wait to add, thank you for the kind awards. I just hope OP gets some measure of peace from these people. She has earned it. OP updated the post December 22nd, 2024. Edit. Thank you all for the advice and support. I wanted to provide an update because things have escalated in ways I never expected. After I went no contact with my family, I thought they'd eventually accept my decision and move on, but that hasn't been the case. For the past few weeks, my brother and sister have been trying to get me to see the funny side of their prank. They've shown up at my house uninvited multiple times, banging on the door and demanding to talk to me. At first, I ignored them, but it became clear they weren't going to stop. One evening, I caught them standing outside my house with their phones out, recording themselves while yelling things like, "She can't take a joke," and "Let's see how long she can hide." It felt more like harassment than an attempt to reconcile. The final straw came when I discovered my car had been egged overnight, and my security camera caught my brother and sister doing it. I confronted them through text, telling them they'd crossed a line and needed to stop. Their response? "You're so dramatic. You're going to laugh about this one day." At this point, I realized I couldn't handle this on my own. I went to the police and filed a report for harassment. They took my statement, reviewed the footage from my security camera, and agreed that this behavior was unacceptable. My siblings were contacted and warned to stay away from me. Their reaction? More mocking messages, calling me a snitch and accusing me of tearing the family apart. Some of my extended family members are siding with them, saying I should have just talked it out instead of involving the police. But others, especially those who've seen the footage, are horrified and fully support my decision. I feel a mix of relief and sadness. It's hard to accept that my own family could treat me this way, but I also feel safer knowing I've taken steps to protect myself. I'm focusing on building a new life in my home and surrounding myself with people who respect and support me. To anyone out there struggling with toxic family dynamics, you're not alone, and it's okay to set boundaries to protect your peace. Thank you for giving me the strength to stand up for myself. Story 2. Devastated about my husband's wealthy-ish family's reaction to my first big gift for him. I come from poverty. It is what it is. I had a very rich childhood in all the ways except financially. Christmas was saved for year-round, and we got one thing to wear, one book, and one fun thing. My husband comes from a family that grossed $300K a year, and Christmas was always a massive show-off. Each kid had $2,000 plus under the tree. Easy. My husband and I started dating 5 years ago and have been married for 2.5. We've clawed our way up in life. He was not given financial help as an adult, and this year is the first time we can spend some decent money on Christmas. He has been wanting a guitar for some time. He has never played and has expressed interest so many times, but we couldn't do it financially. I did lots of research, and from what I saw, beginner's guitars were $150-ish and went from there up to your $5K plus for really nice ones. I agonized over what I was going to choose and ended up telling him to cut the budget for me so that I could surprise him with a really nice gift, so I thought. My original budget was $500, but I really wanted to go big or go home. It ended up being around $900 key ad, plus $200 for accessories or so. Being able to spend that amount is just unfathomable for a former poor kid. But I did it because he deserves it. We finally have the means. And I was beyond excited to see his face light up. Christmas morning comes and the tree gifts wait until his family arrives. I am basically giddy at this point with excitement. Our turn comes for couple gifts and I bring the guitar case out from its hiding place. He's so excited and opens the case, revealing the guitar. And then, "Oh, thanks, babe, never heard of this brand." Not the overwhelming joy I was hoping for, but it's not about me, right? His brother says, "Oh, it's nice. A decent cheapy one to start out with." His dad chimes in, having played in his 20S, and says it's known for its lower-end models, and they'd be happy to chip in for a nice one next year if he sticks with it. I have never felt such a punch to the gut. I assume I'm overthinking as per usual, but I am still so devastated from this 10 seconds of today, and I can't even really verbalize why. It felt like I was 9 years old again, trying to be excited about my new Aeropostale hoodie with my friend that got a MacBook and a Disney trip for Christmas. I think those comments affected how my husband viewed it too, because he hasn't touched it since, despite wanting it so badly for years. I guess I'm just venting. I feel so small and I just had to get it out. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter: I'm wondering if maybe your husband had a specific brand of guitar in mind that he wanted and that's why he reacted that way. Not sure if that'll help you feel better, but that was my first thought. OOP: I don't think he did. He's usually pretty forward with things and has never mentioned a specific brand. He's not super knowledgeable about any of it, my dad said. The brand is a common enough brand. I know his brother does have a Les Paul, though, so by comparison is definitely pales if he is only familiar with the very high-end names. Editor's note: Les Pauls are very nice guitars and range in price quite a bit. Here's a Wikipedia link and link to their website. What brand did you get? It's a Guild 250EE. The person I spoke to at the Music Shop Canada said it was a very good choice. He talked me out of the two other options and reassured me of the quality, longevity. I was actually quite shocked he didn't know the brand, even as a non-musician. Editor's note: not a Les Paul, obviously, but not a crappy guitar at all. Wikipedia link and website. A commenter replies, "Do you know the preceding letter for the 250E model? Guild has an interesting history of ownership, having once been owned by Fender and now owned by Yamaha. They make some very good guitars across a wide price range. You got him a nice guitar, OP. OP. Sorry, yes, F250E, blonde jumbo. Not sure if that makes a difference." That commenter replies, "Considering Guild has the F55E that retails at $4,600 USD, their family saying it's a cheaper guitar brand is extra rich. You got the right guitar. It's a nice price range from a trusted brand. The family is trash. Your husband probably is not sure what guitar he wants. I'd take him to the music store and have him try out some models. Worst comes to worse, you keep the Guild." Commenter: "How does he normally handle the class difference in your relationship?" OOP: "He honestly never mentions it. It hasn't been a huge hurdle. We did struggle to meet in the middle when it came to what is essential versus just wants. Both of us had a skewed idea of that. But I think he had to rough it enough at 21, 26 to be based in reality 90% of the time. Christmas just seems to be the exception." Commenter: "Sounds like you're actually devastated about your husband's reaction to the gift, not his family's reaction." OP: "I think you're right. I was expecting him to be so excited, and then it just didn't really happen like that in the end. This guitar had been a passing conversation for years. My little sister was also very excited and helped me pick it out, so I think I also felt crushed for her too." Commenter: "You cut the budget from your own present, and he agreed? Jesus, that's brutal." You need to think long and hard about potential children being exposed to this toxic materialistic mentality. Regardless of income, those comments were disgusting, but they seem set in their ways. OOP: "I still think he spent way over budget on me, so I don't know if he actually agreed. I'll give him that. He knows I stress about money endlessly, so I'm assuming he just agreed to make me feel better about wanting to spend more what he got for her presents. He honestly did. He was very thoughtful. He got me a purse I've been wanting for a hot minute and quite a few other things that he took note of over the past few months. He definitely went over the new budget. Not the same price, but I really and truly am not a gift person, so the thought is 100x more important to me." Commenter: "Just an assumption, but even when he had to rough it, he did always have his family to fall back on, as in he wouldn't be homeless or anything? That gives a very different mentality to someone who does have to genuinely fear homelessness and honesty. I think spending your childhood and many teen years in financial comfort is going to have a much larger effect on someone's values than a few years of scrimping and saving as a young adult." OOP: "Yeah, I suppose our idea of roughing it definitely differed. There has always been the safety net. He was pretty good about not using it and holding his own, but it was definitely still there." OOP expands: "He got a taste of normal life because they didn't give him money to start out. He had to get his crappy minimum wage job like the rest of us, save, and work up from there. Our collision of worlds has actually been good because he reminds me I deserve new jeans when mine have holes, and I remind him that he doesn't need a new pair of jeans every week. So it's only really when we're with them that he reverts back to this." Commenter: "I can't help but mention I came from a household whose parents grossed a bit more than you mentioned, and Christmas was never $2,000 plus per a child. That level of gift-giving sounds excessive for reasons beyond income. What you got would have been a special gift by my or my family's understanding." OOP: "It's completely infuriating to watch. The first year actually made me so mad. To remember my parents scraping dimes together just to get me a book, and then to watch two grown men completely surrounded by their new consoles, an entire new wardrobe. So many things. I cried wondering what I'd gotten myself into. His mom went so overboard on me as well, and I can't even explain the guilt I felt." Commenter: "Will he stand up for you in disagreements with his family about where to live, how you raise your children, Against snide remarks from family members. If he doesn't have your back now, he never will. OP. Yes, in other ways he definitely does. His parents disagree with many things we're doing with our daughter, namely getting 99% of things second-hand, aside from car seat and mattress, and letting her get dirty the horror. And he is usually quick to tell them, "My kid, my rules." This was not typical behavior, which made it sting a little bit more, I think. Update, same post. December 26, 2024, next day. I spoke with him this morning trying to be very calm. I'm not confrontational by nature, so I put my anger aside and went into it with patience and grace. I asked if he was upset about the guitar, either the brand choice, the appearance, or something. I told him my feelings were hurt when his family made comments, even if unintentionally, that made it seem like I chose a child starter instrument or something. I explained that I'd put a lot of thought and research into the build, the color, everything, so make sure his first experience with a guitar was very positive. He was shocked to hear that I'd been thinking about it that way. He didn't think twice about what his family said. He apologized for their reaction and his, and explained that his comment about the brand was nothing more than what it seemed. He'd never heard of the brand, that's all. He said he loved it and was just caught up on the craziness of Christmas, which is why he hadn't played it yet. It eased my mind a lot. I guess I'm just used to over-the-top reactions in my family. I think I'm still disappointed after a month's worth of excitement building was slashed pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, knowing he likes it makes their opinion mean a lot less. Story 3. Kids opened their presents without me. Original post. December 25th, 2024. My husband is usually a great husband and father, but I am so effing pissed right now. I don't think I've ever been this mad. I woke up this morning around 8:30 when I heard the kids running around. I knew they would be eager to open their Christmas presents, so I got up immediately. I have a lot of trouble sleeping for various reasons, so my husband lets me sleep in every morning and watches the kids until I wake up naturally, or I have to get up to help get the kids ready for the day. He's alone with them for half an hour to an hour. He knows what time to wake me up if I oversleep. So I come into the living room and there is wrapping paper everywhere. All the presents are already unwrapped and the kids, 5 and 7, are playing with them. I immediately started crying and walked back into the bedroom where my sadness also turned into anger, and I started screaming like crazy. I am so mad. I spent so much time thinking about what to get the kids, ordering it or driving around to find it in the stores, wrapping them and everything, and I feel like I was completely deprived of the joy of seeing their faces when they open their presents, which is one of the best parts of Christmas. My husband said he videotaped it. I screamed at him why he either couldn't make the kids wait or he could have just come and woken me up. He just said, "I never wake you up in the morning." I said, "It's fucking Christmas morning. You didn't think I wanted to watch the kids unwrap the presents." And I called him an asshole. He just said sorry. He didn't say I overreacted. I'm really hurt right now and I don't even know how to get over it. I don't feel like doing anything Christmassy today. I'm so disappointed in everybody. I guess this was more of a rant to get this off my chest, but you can certainly tell me if I was the asshole or not. Also, if you have any suggestions on how to mediate my hurt feelings, that would be really great. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Edit. People seem to think that I cried and screamed and cursed in front of my children. I did not. I intentionally went into the bedroom to have a good cry. I wasn't expecting to get so angry that I was screaming. My husband heard me and came into the room, so yes, I did scream at him, and I did call him an asshole. I wish I had the same self-control as so many in the comments that can control their strong emotions. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter. Info. Your kids are 5 and 7. This isn't your first family Christmas. What has happened on previous years? I'm assuming you didn't sleep through them? OP. This has never been an issue before. In the past, I was either up when the kids were up or they waited to open the presents, so I didn't think it would be different this year. In response to a long comment, I have asked him periodically if he resents me for not sleeping well at night, and therefore not getting up as early as he does in the morning. He has reassured me every time that it's not a problem. He only needs about 7 hours of sleep, so he's awake before the kids are anyway. He knows I have chronic pain, and I have a hard time falling asleep and staying asleep. I don't sleep in every day, but most days he is with them for 30 to 60 minutes by himself. Commenter: I have a question. My mom has your issues also did most. My life, are you on a lot of meds to help with it? OP, I had my first herniated disc 10 years ago and have had back pain ever since. Did a lot of PT, tried all kinds of treatments and injections, and nothing has really helped. I herniated my disc again properly a month ago and have been on painkillers ever since. I had to go to the emergency room on Monday because my pain was so bad, and the pain meds I had weren't cutting it. They gave me oxycodone and prednisone, but I'm not going to blame my emotional outburst on the meds. I was just really hurt. It's easy for people to say to take care of yourself, but when you try everything and still nothing works, it's really frustrating, isn't it? Update, same post, December 26, 2024, next day. Update, I guess. Men. People on here are extreme. I should divorce my husband should divorce me, I'm being abusive, everybody in my family needs therapy, etc. So here is the very anticlimactic update. My husband and I were cordial with each other throughout the day. I spent most of my time hanging out with the kids, admiring their toys, playing games with them. My husband helped them with Lego assembly. We had snacks, I made dinner, we drove around looking at Christmas lights. I talked to the kids about opening the presents, and my older one apologized for not waiting for me, but he was just so excited and had to open them right away. I told him it was okay, but maybe next time we do it differently. When the kids went to bed, I talked to my husband about what happened, and he apologized, saying that he just didn't think about it. He was busy with a project when the kids came downstairs around 8 a.m. He wasn't quite done yet, and they really wanted to open the presents. He wanted to make sure everything was safely put away, and he couldn't hold them off any longer, but really wanted to let me sleep. That's why he videotaped it so I could watch it later. I asked him how he would feel if the roles were reversed, and he said, yeah, that would suck. I know I messed up. Dad brain. Obviously, I forgave him. We have a strong marriage and can figure stuff out together. That doesn't mean that we don't have feelings or need to suppress them. I apologize for yelling and calling him an asshole. He says he understands why I reacted the way I did. I asked him if the kids heard me yell, and he said, no. They were busy with their toys, and you can't hear stuff from up there down here anyway. And we already have a plan for next year. Our kids always get one present from Santa, and the rest, they know, are from us or the rest of the family and friends. The gifts from Santa will be placed under the tree, and they can open them at their leisure. The rest of the gifts won't appear until everybody is present. Thank you to everybody who had reasonable input, and while there were some intense, strange, and even downright rude comments, I appreciate all the kind words I received. There are still people out there who try to make the world a better place. Story 4. What should I do if my brother-in-law makes my family watch all 6 Rocky movies on Christmas and I can't take it anymore? Original post, December 25th, 2024. My brother-in-law is a great guy. He's got a successful small business, has 2 awesome kids, and treats my sister, his wife, really well. However, we all gather at my parents' house for Christmas every year. He insists on putting on the Rocky movies all day. Not only do they have to be on the TV, but he wants to be sure that we're watching the movies and paying attention to them. They can't just be on in the background. He starts right when we wake, and we have to open presents while the first movie plays. Then he puts on Rocky 2, then the 3, and so on. They play throughout the entire day, and the volume of the TV is always so loud. Anytime we leave to go into another room to try and do something else. He gives us a guilt trip that we're not participating in the family tradition. I can't take it anymore. I don't find the movies to be bad, but I feel this tradition doesn't have much to do with Christmas, and I don't like the movies enough to have them on every single year. I'm also not the only one on my family who wants this tradition to end. What can we do? Top comments. Commenter 1. Elmao, this is hilarious. Get up and go do something else. You don't have to sit and watch movies just because someone asked you to. Commenter 2. Then your family needs to put on their big boy and girl pants and communicate with him that you do not want to watch the movies. Edit. I am really curious what is going to be the conclusion to OP's update. My guess is BL is just going to stop coming over on Christmas Day. He has a tradition he likes doing on Christmas while everyone else doesn't. Seems pretty simple. Fix is BL just doesn't come to Christmas Day anymore. It also seems like he has no problem with your sister and their children staying, so that is a good thing. Commenter 3. Why is Bill king of Christmas? Just say you don't want to watch the movies or put something else on. Maybe communicate that you hate this tradition and would rather gouge out your own eyes than see one more pixel of Sylvester Stallone. OP updated in the same post. Update, December 25th, 2024. Same day, few hours later. Edit. This morning between Rocky 2 and the 3, myself, my 2 brothers, and my parents decided we were going to play a game in another room. My BL came in and said we needed to be in the living room where the movie was playing. We told him no, not this year. We want to do something else. He left, and we don't know where he drove off to. His wife and kids are still here. We'll give an update if anything else happens. Edit 2. For those asking for an update. Bill texted his wife, my sister, and said he's at home by himself, watching the Rocky movies and won't be coming back. One of my brothers is going to drop my sister and her kids off at their house when we're done our festivities here. We have Christmas music playing, games going on, and a bunch of us are putting dinner together. It's been a great day so far without the BL. Story 5. My 26F boyfriend, 36M, has started acting distant and ghosting me after meeting my parents, 49M and 50F, last week. How do I reach out to him? Original post December 17th, 2024. My boyfriend Derek, fake name, and I met through mutual friends 6 months ago, and we immediately hit it off. He is sweet, funny, kind, and just generally a good guy. He is super extroverted, and I have never seen him dislike or not click with anyone. I mentioned him to my parents a couple times, and they said they were excited to meet him. My parents live a road trip away, so me and Derek had to book a hotel nearby. About 2 weeks ago, we dropped all of our stuff in the hotel and arrived at my parents' house. My parents are the most welcoming people you'll ever meet. They have met some of my past significant others in the past, and have always been warm and kind. Since both my parents and Derek are charismatic and welcoming, I thought that dinner would go smoothly, but I was wrong. It didn't start off too bad. My parents and Derek seemed a bit awkward, but I assumed he was just nervous. We sat for dinner and my parents asked us a couple questions. How did we meet? How serious is the relationship, etc., etc. I've never seen Derek stutter or hesitate before this dinner, but he did. As soon as I finished eating, he thanked my parents for dinner and said we had to go. It felt like he was rushing to get out of the house. When we got to the hotel room, he ran to the bathroom and I heard him throw up. He said he felt sick, and he was going to head back home, but he insisted I stayed and enjoyed the rest of the trip without him. I agreed since I really missed my parents, and he seemed to want to be alone. I texted him a couple times asking how he was doing, if he felt better, but he didn't reply. After 2 days passed, I started to get really worried that maybe he was really sick and had to go to the hospital or something. So I cut the trip short and headed back home. I went to his apartment and saw he was okay. I asked him how he was doing and why he wasn't replying, and he said he felt fine and that I was overreacting. He told me he still felt sick and he wanted to be alone. I went back home and texted him asking if I did anything wrong, and if our relationship was okay since he was acting so weird and cold. A week has gone by since the text message, and he has not replied. Derek is the last person I'd expect to ghost me. I'm torn between wanting to give him space and wanting answers. How do I even reach out to him without pushing him further away? TLDR. Took my boyfriend to meet my parents. It was super awkward. He got sick and went home early, and has been ghosting me since. Added comments. Commenté. It was a road trip together, but they could leave separately? Did her parents take her home? Something's missing. OP. Sorry, I just realized that's unclear. He took a cab home. 5-hour drive. Update December 23rd, 2024. Hey Reddit, sorry I didn't reply to that many of your comments. They were mostly just saying Derek was secretly my brother, which is horrifying. So I wasn't sure how to reply. I tried to reply to questions when I saw them pop up, The past few days have been a mess. But now that everything is settled, I thought I would go on here and update all of you. I took you guys' advice and decided to speak to my parents rather than Derek to discover if maybe they said anything or knew each other in the past, like many of you suggested they might. 4 days ago, I called my mom and told her about Derek's weird reaction after our dinner. I asked for advice or if she knew what happened. She was silent for a moment and I heard her start crying. She started apologizing and I didn't understand what she was trying to tell me at first. Eventually, I got her to calm down and she told me what had happened. My mom is a high school teacher and apparently Derek was her student in his senior year, and she told me that they had an affair. She didn't give me that many details. Honestly, I don't even want to know. All she said is that they only slept together once before she shut it down, and that my father knew, and they had attended couples counseling years ago to work through this. She cried a lot and said it was her greatest regret. Then she told me she wanted me to break it off with Derek because he brought back really awful memories, and she found the age gap concerning. She's one to talk about age gaps. But ultimately, she said it was decision and she didn't want her past mistakes to ruin my relationship. I went to Derek's apartment again and he invited me in. He said he had to tell me something, but I stopped him and told him I had already talked to my mom and knew everything. He promised me he had no idea up until the point we had come over for dinner where he immediately recognized her. He apologized for ghosting me and said he just didn't know what to say and he was scared that he would ruin my relationship with my parents or maybe ruin their marriage. I forgave him but told him that the whole situation was just way too messy for me and he agreed. So yeah, that's how my past few days have gone down. Honestly, I do kind of miss Derek, but not too much since the whole banging my mom thing is a massive turnoff. Thank you for all the replies. I feel like I will never see my mom the same again. How can I work on rebuilding our relationship and trust moving forward? TLDR. My mom, a teacher, had an affair with Derek, who was her student back in his senior year. Because of this, me and Derek broke up. How can I work on rebuilding my relationship with my mom? Story 6. My 25F boyfriend, 27M of a year, has a cat and the way he treats it bothers me. I've been dating this guy for a year. Otherwise nice, handsome, funny, good job. But he has a cat that he's had for years that I think he's way too attached to and affectionate about. If the cat is sitting on his lap, he'll avoid getting up unless he has to, citing the cat being asleep or, in his terms, she's catting. He's asked me to get him stuff from the kitchen when I get a drink, when he could just move the cat himself. Sometimes he'll be at the computer, on the couch, or even lying in bed and the cat will jump on him. Or he'll come home when I'm already there since I have a key, and sometimes get off work before, and the cat will run to greet him. What bothers me is in these instances he's said more than once, "There's my girl," and stop what he's doing to scratch the cat behind its ears or pet it or whatever. This seems like way too much attention for a grown man to be lavishing on a cat of all things. I've considered suggesting he get rid of it, but he's had it for something like 7 years, and don't know if he'd give it up. Do I have any options here? Tell Dadar. Boyfriend has a cat that I think he's too affectionate towards. How can I remedy this? Relevant comment. You know you're crazy. What the actual fuck? You think he's too nice to his cat? He loves his pet. It brings him joy. Why the fuck would that be a problem? Why do you begrudge him something that makes him happy? How can I remedy this? You can break up with the guy and fuck right off. I'm really overwhelmed by the responses I'm getting. I thought his behavior was abnormal towards a pet. Lagelthrow? That's a very normal cat ownership behavior. He loves his kitty. I can't tell if this is a troll. It seems like a very weird thing to be so perturbed by. If you're already going to the kitchen, why would it bother you to grab him something from that room? Absolutely. You can't suggest someone get rid of a pet because they love it too much. If y'all had issues with the cat's behavior or allergies, maybe getting rid of the cat could be a discussion you could have. But he sometimes doesn't get up because the cat is on his lap, and he often pets the cat and is happy to see her when he gets home. And you want him to get rid of the cat? The longer I think on this, the more troll I'm getting from this post. But regardless, if you can't accept his relationship, a pretty healthy, normal one with his pet, who he's had 7x longer than he's known you, then this relationship just isn't for you, and you should move on. If it's a jealousy issue, or an issue where you feel like he's relying on you too heavily to pick up his slack around the house, then maybe it's couples therapy time. But otherwise, his behavior with his pet seems super normal. OP. It's normal to lavish attention on an animal like that? To call a cat my girl when his girlfriend is 10 feet away? That honestly just seems weird to me. The opposite, opinion 1. This seems like way too much attention for a grown man to be lavishing on a cat of all things. I think you have some issues with what you define as a grown man. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing, and I can't tell if it's jealousy or if you have some weird seated ideals of masculinity. Was your father, grandfather, or other male role model critical of showing affection in any way? Maybe towards animals? Or do you ever feel your partner doesn't give you enough attention? Maybe you feel like he doesn't value as much as you want him to somehow. I think the answer to one of these questions is the real seed of these feelings. So, my father and brother have a utilitarian approach to dogs. We've never had cats. Dogs are for hunting and home protection. They displayed some affection for them, but I never saw them get upset when it was time for a dog to be put down. My boyfriend is affectionate towards me. We cuddle and have sex plenty. I'm not complaining about that. The opposite, opinion 1. All right, I'm going with hypothesis #1. You're worried your boyfriend would be sad if he had to put down his cat, and that means he doesn't fit your schema of how a masculine partner should act. Meanwhile, we're on the subject of sexist attitudes. Does he expect you to live up to traditional female behaviors? Does he expect dinner on the table the minute he walks in the door? What about doing all the cooking and cleaning? Those are also gender attitudes. Are you living up to your expectations since you hold him to his? OOP. No, I'm not expected to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. It's 2017, not 1955. I'll sometimes cook, but he does that more often. Yeah, he'd probably be sad if he had to put the cat down. Hell, he just spent like $600 on some vet stuff for the cat a few weeks ago. We had a big argument when I asked if euthanasia was cheaper or not. My dad never shelled out money like that on vets. Edit. I'm really surprised at how this is apparently normal. If that's the case, I don't think I could deal with this in the long term and should do myself a favor and consider ending the relationship. Update October 5th, 2017. Copy of the update. Yesterday I posted about concerns I had with the way I thought my boyfriend was overly affectionate with his cat. I, like the rest of my family, view pets in a utilitarian light. I'm just not comfortable with a lot of affection being displayed towards an animal, even if it's supposedly normal. I gave it consideration during and after the tread and decided to break up with my boyfriend. When I broached the topic and the reason his response was, "Oh, good." To be honest, I've been trying to figure out the most tactful way to break it off since our argument where you wanted me to euthanize my cat to save money. I also wanted to take time to think about if I was sure I thought we were done. You can give me your apartment key back now and have your stuff out by Friday night. I'll buzz you in if you can't finish tonight. So I guess that's it. That was abrupt. Edit. Lots of people are commenting about the euthanasia thing. I was surprised he'd spend $600 on a vet bill. I figured putting the cat down would be cheaper. My dad never spent money like that on a vet. Till my daughter decided to break up with my boyfriend because I don't agree with our views on affection towards animals. He already wanted to and wants my stuff out by tomorrow. Relevant comment? Relax, relapse. You wanted me to euthanize my cat to save money. What the fuck is wrong with you? OP. That argument was pretty recent. He'd been a bit distant since it, and made it clear it was a big part of why he was done. He actually called me a bitch during the argument at the time he kicked me out of the apartment. Gosh, bae, I really hope you can see why your behavior is so disturbing. Where are you from? OP. I'm from the upper Midwest, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota. I'm not some Nebraska hillbilly. Deleted. Even hillbillies love their pets. Story 7. My 29F fiancé, 30M, knew about my mother's affair and didn't tell me. Original post. Raredit October 16th, 2018. 3 weeks ago, I had to sit with my dad, listen to my mother tell that she wanted a divorce. Because she had been having an affair with a guy she met on the internet for a year now. Now, the first part I understood. My dad had already talked to me that their marriage just wasn't the same as before, and although he was doing his best to change things up, my mom wasn't caring about it anymore. But the affair part got me really angry, and I felt a bit heartbroken, especially because she kept repeating that she knew my dad didn't deserve that, and how angry she was at herself. So I called my fiancé because I was upset and I needed to talk to someone. Except that when I told him about it, he just goes, "About that," and proceeds to tell me that he already knew. For 5 months. Because he would often see my mother and the man at a restaurant near his work. I asked him why he hadn't told me about it, and he said that he just didn't know how to do it and there never seemed to be a right time for it. After that, he said he would give me some space, and we haven't talked much since. I asked him out so we could have dinner and talk, but he just sat in silence and wouldn't even look me in the eye. I have been staying at my parents' house to help my dad, and my fiancé has yet to show up. We're supposed to get married next year, and I thought at first that we should change the date for later, but right now I'm feeling so uncomfortable and doubtful that I even wonder whether we should get married. I love him, but there is this weird feeling that I can't shake, and his behavior through this entire thing isn't helping. TLDR, parents are getting a divorce because my mother has been having an affair for a year. I told my fiancé and found out that he knew about the affair for 5 months. Now he's avoiding me and I'm having doubts about marrying him. OP added this info in the comments. Here, a lot of people seem to think that I'm blaming my fiancé, and this is not the case. I'm not blaming him, and I'm well aware of the fact that my mother is the one at fault in this entire situation. My point is that he's been avoiding me even though I could really use his support in this moment. I'm not even wanting to have a talk about what happened because I know we can come back to it once the dust has settled. I just want someone to talk about mundane things and to try and keep my mind away from the entire mess that's going on right now. But it seems I'll have to keep trying until then. Relevant comments. Hoping to thrive. It's your mother that put everyone in this situation. She wasn't even being discreet. Odd that he saw her so many times, but she never saw him. And very poor timing for her to announce this right before your wedding. I am sorry you are the one who got royally screwed. From what he said, she saw him twice. During both times, she was just talking with the guy, so that's why she probably thought he didn't see anything besides that. Except he did. Or maybe she just didn't care. Say _work. How much did he know? Just seeing your mom with some other guy at a restaurant doesn't necessarily mean it's an affair. Could be a work lunch meal or whatever. Oops. Sometimes they were just talking. Other times things evolved to hand-holding and kisses. _work. The him not being there for you during this mess is a separate issue. Seems weird he would just back off all of a sudden. Does he feel like you blame him? OP. I don't think I've given him any indication of blaming him. During the phone call where he told me the details, I was pretty speechless. I just asked him questions of how long this was going on and what he saw. Also the locations and when was the last time he saw it happen. I also asked why he hadn't told me anything. I told him we needed to talk in person and just kept him updated on the situation through texts. When we went out for dinner, he was already acting kinda weird. And to be honest, I felt weird too. So I decided to talk about other topics before we could have a proper conversation. He just kept mostly to himself and would answer more than talk, and I decided to drop it before it got worse. So now we just talk through very short messages, and phone calls are almost non-existent since he will either hang up fast or not pick up at all. Also, we don't share a place at the moment since he had to move in with a friend for a few months, since it's closer to where they work and we had to adjust our budget to move somewhere close in the future rather than now. Dartaco Lord. I'll play the devil's advocate. Would you have believed him? What would you have done in his place? Also, perhaps he thought not my monkeys, not my circus, and he decided that he shouldn't meddle in his in-laws' relationship. OP. To be honest with you, I would have believed. As I said in my post, I knew my parents' marriage wasn't in a good place at all. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that infidelity wasn't something that I wondered about, even though I would rather think that my parents weren't capable of that. After a while, you notice things and some ideas become not so far-fetched anymore. So yeah, I would have believed, and I would rather he commented on these meetings he had witnessed and then went to the more incriminating stuff. Update. Raredit January 23, 2019, 3 months later. Making this update so I can move on from that. Not a happy update, but here we go. After making the post, I realized that maybe I was being accusatory and that I should try being more open with him. I invited him to my place so we could have an honest talk. He didn't show up and instead decided to call me. I was already having a hard time, so this didn't sit right with me, which led to us arguing through the phone and ended up with my now ex-fiancée revealing that he had been having an affair himself with a woman from work. The entire thing had been going on for almost a year, and at first he thought it was just a one-time thing, except it kept happening, and he figured out that he had feelings for her. It was around that time that he moved to his friend's place, so he could take her there whenever his friend wasn't home, which was often. This was why he didn't tell me about my mother's affair. He felt guilty and he started feeling paranoid. After the whole thing blew up, he got scared and was trying to do damage control, including trying to break up with her. Except he didn't want to break up with her, so it was going to be me instead. We last spoke to each other in November once he finished canceling the stuff that was already planned. He wanted to keep contact in the future, which I denied. I moved closer to where my dad lives. His divorce still isn't finished, but it'll get there. My mother has been living with her boyfriend since the whole thing came to light. I haven't spoke to her since, even though she tried to contact once I canceled the wedding. I'm still not in a good shape emotionally, but I'm trying to get there. I truly wish no one ever goes through that. TLDR ex-fiancé didn't tell me about it because he was scared that I would find out about his affair. Story 8. My 25M girlfriend's 25F sex drive has completely disappeared. Original post, September 10th, 2020. Pretty much the title. I'm very concerned about her at this point and I have no idea what to do. Back in April-ish we were having sex too, 3 times a day. We live in an apartment together. She's been taking online classes for her master's, and I'm working from home since the lockdown started. At some point she got really busy and tired with a project, so we obviously stopped having sex temporarily. Since it's gotten over though, which was nearly 4 months ago at this point, she's turned me down every time I've tried to initiate or set the mood for sex. I have never pressured her. I usually wait a couple of nights before asking again when she tells me she's not in the mood, which turned into waiting a week, which turned into waiting 2 weeks. At this point, I'm really concerned. We've never gone anywhere near 4 months without sex before. We've both always had pretty high sex drives. At this point, it's important to note that I do not press the matter or pester or pressure her in any way. The moment she says she's not in the mood, I back off immediately. I don't think I've fucked up anywhere because she's always quite apologetic when she turns me down. Our relationship is pretty much perfect in every other way too. We cuddle and hug and have game nights and movie nights. It's never felt like we're drifting apart at any point. She hasn't been behaving differently, like she's upset or depressed. We give each other plenty of space, too. It's not like we're constantly together. We have our own friend circles, and we curl up on our own devices from time to time. I've tried talking to her about it, but she gets really upset and keeps insisting that nothing is wrong. I drop the matter pretty quickly, too, because I don't want her to feel like I'm pressuring her to have sex. I just want her to let me in and tell me what's wrong. I honestly don't care about the sex, but I know there's something she's not telling me, and it's gone on long enough that I'm getting extremely worried about her. Relevant. Comment? Commenter 1. If I was in your place, I too wouldn't pressure her for sex, but I damn well would pressure her for an explanation. From 2 to 3 times a day to not at all for 4 months? I would need answers, even if she was upset at having the conversation. It's okay to want, or not want things in a relationship, but not communicating is not okay. OP. Thanks for the response. I don't want her to feel pressured or accused of anything, but I do want an explanation. Do you have any advice on how I can be sort of firm but also make her feel comfortable at the same time? Commenter 2. It's been a very stressful year for everyone. She's probably just feeling the pressure. I wouldn't worry that much. If it really bothers you, try doing small intimate things. Head massage, cuddle, etc. OP. We've been cuddling, and I've been giving her shoulder massages on a fairly regular basis, and she seems very content and happy. Everything seems completely normal except this. I want her to at least talk about this. Could the girlfriend being dealing with a prior traumatic experience? OOP. I keep worrying about a traumatic experience too, but what? We almost never leave home because of the pandemic. One of us goes occasionally to get groceries, but that's about it. I'm honestly at a loss, and she's not talking to me about it. Is the girlfriend taking any medication that might be affecting her moods? Asterisk, asterisk, OOP, asterisk, asterisk, no, she isn't taking any medication. Update #1, September 13th, 2020, 3 days later. Thanks to everyone who replied to my previous post. There were some mixed responses, with some people suggesting I insist on addressing it with her because she's hiding something, with others recommending I give her time to open up on her own. Ultimately, I decided to sort of go for a combo of the two. Friday, when we were both done with work, we sat down and had a discussion. I told her that I could give her the space and time she needed till she was ready to talk to me about it, but I couldn't leave it unaddressed. She needed to acknowledge that there at least was something that she didn't feel ready to tell me, and that was fine. But she at least needed to acknowledge its existence, if only so I stopped feeling like I was going crazy. She started sobbing when I was done, and then she started explaining everything. Some background that I didn't mention in my previous post because it didn't really seem relevant is that my girlfriend has PCOD. One of the consequences of this is that she finds it very difficult to lose weight and has been insecure about her body for most of her life. About a year ago, completely of her own choice, I have always told her that she's beautiful to me no matter what her weight. She resolved to start losing weight, both for her health and to feel better about her body. She started going to the gym a couple times a week, and I was supportive and also cut out all my own junk food consumption in solidarity. Since the lockdown started and gyms shut, apparently she started slowly gaining some weight back due to stress eating and lack of exercise. I am ashamed to say I did not even notice that she was torturing herself over her weight all this while. She admitted that she stopped having sex because she was terrified I would stop finding her attractive after seeing her naked. I reassured her that I think she's gorgeous and attractive no matter what, and I tell her this every day. But she was afraid that would have changed once I saw the weight she'd put on. The rest of the conversation consisted of me reassuring her that she's beautiful and her appreciating but not really believing me. After a bit, she asked me to change the topic, and I reluctantly agreed. We had a fairly quiet dinner. She was a little sad and relieved at the same time at having told me, I think. And I was busy scheming. The next morning before work, I told her she looked lovely again, and she gave me a wan smile, like she appreciated it, but didn't really believe me. But that was okay. I was going to convince her. I asked her to pick up the groceries that evening because I was going to have a meeting run late. The moment she left home, I got to work. I dug out some fairy lights and a bunch of candles from storage and started setting them up in the living room. Made a couple of playlists and charged the speaker. Snuck down to the florist and bought a giant bouquet. Some more background. I hate dancing because I suck massively at it, while my girlfriend loves it. She used to go dancing every month or two with her girlfriends before lockdown. I'd join in sometimes because it was worth how happy it made her, but she definitely missed it way more than me. So when she got back, naturally I greeted her with what were probably the most ridiculous dance moves in the history of mankind. I'm not going to lie, folks. She laughed. She laughed a lot. She took a short video, and we both laughed while watching it later. My movement resembled a 5-year-old practicing kung fu more than it resembled dancing, and I had stuck a rose in my ear for maximum ridiculousness. Totally worth it, though. I have no idea how she ever thought she's ugly. Her smile is just so fucking radiant. We danced like idiots for a while before I switched to the slow dance playlist. It was definitely the happiest I'd seen her in a long time. I'd been a bad boyfriend and somehow missed how much she missed everything else. I should have done it months ago. I told her all this. Told her she's the most beautiful woman in my eyes and always will be. And yeah, we had sex. Last night was all about her. She needed to feel special, and I had been missing that for too long. I offered to make dance nights a weekly thing afterwards, kind of as a substitute for the workouts she's been missing if she wants. She tore up a little, She knows how much I hate dancing. She told me that wasn't necessary. Apparently sex is just as much of a workout as dancing. And we have a lot of missed workouts to catch up on. I'm certainly not complaining. In all seriousness, though, I'm going to dip into my savings a little and order a home treadmill. She can't afford one right now because of college bills, so I'll surprise her with it. Thank you to everyone who helped me out with their advice. Edit. Oh wow, I am completely overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support here. Thanks for all the awards. I just logged back into this account, but I promise I'm going to read each of the replies. One thing I saw pop up a couple of times that I just want to reassure you guys about is that she's mentioned wanting a treadmill, but not being able to afford one several times in the past, so I know she wants one. However, I figured that it's dumb to take the chance, and one surprise was good enough. And if there's anything this whole experience has taught me, it's the importance of communication. So I'm going to bring it up at dinner tonight that I comfortably have enough saved up to purchase a home workout machine. Since I saw cycles, ellipticals being mentioned, we'll figure out which one we want, and that I'd love to buy one for our home for both of us to use. Thank you all so much once again for your advice. Edit 2. RIP me, LOL. The comments are coming faster than I can read them now. There's no way for me to reply to every one of them, unfortunately. There are a lot of fantastic suggestions for diets, exercise machines, dance classes, and everything in between, so thank you so much for all of them. She has a great endocrinologist whose advice she will ultimately be following, but there are some great points to bring up with him. It is really touching and overwhelming to see all this support. Thank you all so much. Final edit. She loved the idea of getting some equipment to do our workouts at home together, so we're going to sit down and do our research tonight before picking the one we like most. We've gotten some fantastic advice here, and we'll be looking at ellipticals, bikes, rowing machines, just dance on the switch, and a bunch of other stuff that you guys suggested. To all the people who commented to insist she's cheating on me because I'm a simp, Olmao, thank you for setting the exemplary standard for being macho. Insulting strangers online is so delightfully masculine. The lovely folks who told me to dump her because she's fat get the disappointing but not unexpected shitheads shout out as well. For the overwhelming majority of people, though, I am just breathtaken by the kind and supportive comments we've gotten. Thank you for the treasure trove of advice and LPTs and all the love. You folks are amazing. Relevant comment. Commenter 1, dance lessons, a great thing, Toto as a couple. OP, shh, don't give her ideas. But in all seriousness, probably after the pandemic, it is long overdue for me to fix my woeful dance abilities, haha. OOP clarifies the differences between PCOS and PCOD. OP, hey, PCOS and PCOD differ just slightly and can often be mistaken for each other since they have very similar symptoms. PCOS is caused by a disorder in the endocrine system, which controls the hormonal balance of the body, whereas PCOD is due to a hormonal imbalance rather than a system issue. I'm very sorry to hear you have it. I wish you the best of luck dealing with it. OOP should make sure his girlfriend is okay with getting a treadmill, or it could be a major setback for her, because she hasn't asked for anything yet to help with her weight. OOP. You make a great point, and even though she's explicitly mentioned wanting one before, this was the comment that convinced me to bring it up with her rather than try to surprise her again. I'm going to frame it as buying one for our home for the both of us to use so she doesn't feel targeted or guilty about me spending money. Thank you so much for the advice. OOP was advised to bring up a possible PCOS-PCOD-related issue to his girlfriend's doctor. She might have issues with low progesterone levels, which could be the root cause. OOP, oh wow, thanks for the heads up. I will definitely bring this up with her and we'll book a consultation ASAP. She has a regular endocrinologist already who's been very good up to this point. New update. Update. We got married. December 24th, 2024. 4 years later. Hi, everyone. I spotted an end-of-year email from Reddit for this account, which reminded me of the existence of this throwaway, and I decided to do a quick Christmas Eve update on my profile page in case anyone was still interested, because a lot has happened in 4 years. We're both doing well. We got engaged about 3 years ago and adopted a cat, But it went a bit downhill from there because of a bunch of different health issues that hit her consecutively. She's largely recovered from the temporary ones, and the permanent ones are a lot more under control now thanks to regular health checkups and medication. But it was a rocky couple of years, not for our relationship, just for us in general. All the medical issues also meant she hasn't worked since, which isn't an issue financially, but for other reasons which I'll come to in a moment. She's doing a lot better mentally now as well, at least relative to last year. She still struggles with self-esteem and feeling like a burden to her loved ones, especially me, especially because of the aforementioned lack of work over the last few years. She's a lot more communicative about these things now, though, instead of bottling them up, so she's not let our relationship suffer for this. And I like to think that even if her self-esteem hasn't gone up, her way of coping with it is a lot healthier now, and that's an important step in the right direction. She's even been looking to get back to work over the last month or so, despite the challenges of low self-esteem, severe imposter syndrome, and having to explain a years-long absence, and I'm really proud of her for not just giving up after the hand she's been dealt health-wise. I'm doing really well. I switched jobs and fields about a year back, and I'm making a lot more money now, and I'm enjoying my work a lot more too. I actually started therapy recently as well, because there were some personal discipline issues I wanted to fix, and I ended up discovering a whole host of other issues I had repressed, and bringing them back out into the open and dealing with them has been simultaneously terrifying and liberating. But it's also made me a much better friend and partner, so it looks like I'm going to have to keep braving them for as long as it takes. As for the biggest one, as is probably obvious from the title, we got married 2 months ago. We would have done it a lot earlier if she hadn't had a bunch of health issues pop up unexpectedly, but with her on the mend, we were finally able to plan and organize the thing so everyone we wanted to be there could be there. I honestly sometimes still find it surreal, like WTF, I'm a husband. It still feels like I'm dreaming sometimes and I'm still that clueless, wide-eyed college kid, but I look at the woman sleeping next to me and I remember all the ways I've changed for the better, all the ways I've grown up because of her influence, and I feel really lucky to have her. And I know that I, and she, still have a lot more growing up to do, but I'm feeling this overwhelming contentedness within because we get to do all that growing up together. I don't know if I'll update this again. Maybe if I get reminded of this account sometime in the future, and something major has happened since. Until then, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everyone, and I hope the new year is your best year yet. Story 9. Tomorrow I have to tell my brother that his wife has been cheating for the last 13 years. How would you handle this? Original post, undit, December 22nd, 2024. My SIL confided in a mutual friend who has told me the details of multiple affairs. At this stage, I have screenshots of their conversations as proof, and am seriously considering paying a hacker to get into my SIL's Instagram to capture the chat logs in case he needs the evidence. Not that I even know how or where to find someone to do this, but I know she has these chats on her phone still. He could see them himself, but I want the proof in case she tries to delete it. This will absolutely destroy my brother. It's not even a question of if I should tell him. I need to. I'm just seriously concerned about what it will do to his mental health. He's been cheated on before, and became severely depressed and suicidal. This was many years ago, and he's a grown man now. I'm just still very concerned about it. She admitted that she's not attracted to him. She gloated to our mutual friend about the fact that he'd do anything for her. It's all so vile and disgusting. I'm not sure why I'm even writing this here. I know what I need to do. I suppose I'm just looking for advice. I haven't told anyone about this yet. I don't want this to be gossip shared behind his back if he decides to stay with her. I truly hope not, but they've been together since they were both in high school, and I think he will struggle to detach from her. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Relevant comment. Commenter 1. I think to tell her you know and give her the chance to come clean with your brother. If she doesn't, then you tell him. You have the proof already, so if she tries to get rid of anything, you already have the backup. I only say this because relationships are so complicated and you don't want to get wrapped up in it. Commenter 2. Cheaters lie and will paint op as a liar or minimize it as just flirting. OOP. Exactly. She's quite manipulative, and I just know she will try and cover her tracks. I want to make sure she's caught off guard and doesn't have a chance to delete anything. I also hate that I'm involved, but I can't cover for her. Commenter 3. Is there a way you can postpone it so you're not completely blindsiding him 2 days before Christmas? I just feel like that's a really terrible time to do it. P. Yeah, the timing sucks. The reason I want to tell him now is because we're due to attend a concert all together, a few days after Christmas, and I can't bear to go with them and pretend. I think you're right, though. Perhaps it's better to wait a few more days. Commenter 4. I would suggest that you gather as much proof as needed to make it irrefutable. Then schedule a time with a counselor and ask him to come along for support. Let the therapist know of your plan to tell him in their presence to ensure they will be willing to be there to support your brother as an impartial outsider. This should be done carefully given his history. OOP. Thank you for that advice. I agree, and I'm trying to gather as much information as I can so there's no room for her to deny anything. I'll definitely look into getting extra support from a therapist. OP on her brother's suicidal background history. OP. Yes, he was in his late teens. He was quite devastated at the time. He's a lot older now, so I think he would handle it better, but I'm conscious that I have to be very sensitive and mindful of how what I tell him and making sure to look after him afterwards. Update, Undit, December 24th, 2024, 2 days later. In my previous post, I explained that I, 32F, recently found out that my Siel, 33, has been cheating on my brother for their entire relationship and marriage. I ended up telling our younger sister about this too, because I couldn't keep it to myself. We both decided that it'd be important for us both to be there when I tell him. We decided we wouldn't say anything negative about his wife, rather just stick to the facts that we knew. I told him to meet us at the park near our parents' place, and when he got there, I immediately burst into tears. I told him that I found out something horrible that I had to share, that I was sorry to be the one to tell him this, especially at this time of year, and that his wife has been having multiple affairs over the course of their entire relationship. I asked if he wanted to see the evidence that I had, and I apologized for showing him the vile messages. It absolutely broke my heart, but he started sobbing reading them. They were very explicit. We spent a few hours talking, crying, and comforting him. We offered to go with him when he confronted her, not to interfere, but to be outside the house in case he needed support. They live in a rural area, and I was worried about him driving and being alone. I also set up a spare room in my house for him to stay in. I have to say that I am so damn proud of this man. He was calm and level-headed, told us not to worry, and that his mind and conscience were clear. I told him I was afraid to tell him because I knew how much it had hurt him, and because of his past depression and how it had damaged his mental health. My sister and I told him we love him and that he's the kindest, most loyal person and brother. He's always looked after us and looks after everyone. He thanked us for telling him and said everything would be okay. I made him promise that he would be careful, look after himself, and wouldn't hurt himself or her. Later that night I went to check on him and he came out to talk and give me a hug. He said his wife wasn't holding back and was coming clean about all of it. He said that after the torture he's been putting his body through with training and boxing, this feels like nothing in comparison. He's in shock, of course, and in a world of pain, but he's so mentally strong. This is the most horrible thing I've ever had to do, and I feel so sad for him. We said we'd support whichever decision he makes, and that we wouldn't tell a soul about it if he chooses to stay with her and wants to keep it private. Thanks to everyone who commented and gave me advice. I desperately needed to talk about it. Relevant. Comment? Commenter 1. If he chooses to stay, it would be detrimental to his health. She wasn't cheating one time or for a few months, but for the entire marriage. OOP. I truly hope he doesn't stay. I can't imagine that he will now that he knows how long it's been going on for. I think if he does in the short term, it will ultimately end in divorce regardless. Does OOP's brother have any children with his wife? OOP. They don't have children, thank God. Commenter 2. That's great to hear. Were there any warning signs? Did you get the impression she was not really into him? Had a lot of time she spent away from him that was unaccounted for? OP. He He said that she's been secretive with her phone for a long time and that there are comments that have been made here and there that he's never been able to shake. He knew deep down, I think. She also lost her license for drunk driving a few years ago while she was on her way to a hotel to see another guy. He said he never understood how she missed the turn on her route home. There's a lot there. I think he'll put the pieces together once he starts reflecting on it. Story 10. Suing for medical expenses after disaster wedding? Original post December 20th, 2018. Relevant background information. My husband has a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, which makes his bones very fragile and susceptible to fractures. He uses a wheelchair because his bones are too weak to support his body weight. This past weekend we attended a friend's wedding. There was again relevant info, fairly heavy young woman at our table who was drinking heavily and was flirting very aggressively with my husband throughout the evening. I found out later that she's a cousin of the bride. He was very polite, but eventually started rebuffing her with decreasingly gentle hints, and told her that he was gay and that his husband was sitting right next to him. A bit later, some tables were cleared and dancing began, which led us to believe that we were off the hook. The woman who had been bothering us was dancing with another guy, so we sat at the edge of the improvised dance floor and watched. After a while, however, she had disentangled from her dance partner and was dancing near us with a couple of female friends. Right as a song was ending, she leaned backward in an attempted flourish of sorts and tripped, and ended up right in my husband's lap. As I mentioned earlier, his bones are not up to supporting an approximately 200 lb weight suddenly dropping on him, and she ended up breaking both of his femurs and one of his ribs. It was a disaster. We had to call an ambulance. He needed surgery on his right leg. He had to stay in the hospital for 4 nights, and he's going to be stuck in bed for a good long while. We do have decent health insurance, but it's looking like we can expect to pay $3,000 out of pocket for the health care he received. Honestly, we don't have that kind of money lying around. Our friend who got married has been in touch and was extremely apologetic about the situation. He and his new wife were absolutely not at fault, and I'd like to drag them through the mud as little as possible. I am, however, wondering if it is possible to sue the cousin at fault for the medical bills we now owe. After an evening of aggressive flirting, I frankly don't believe that she came over to us and then happened to fall exactly in my husband's lap purely by accident, but I don't have any proof that it was intentional. I'm certain that she didn't have any malicious intent, and that she had no idea that she was going to hurt him so badly by plopping herself on him the way she did. Even if it was purely a drunken stumble, does she bear any liability for the injuries she caused, even if they were unintentional? Neither of us have contacted her at all since the wedding. We'd never met beforehand, and I don't know quite how to casually ask a stranger for thousands of dollars. Based on her behavior at the wedding, the actions above, plus the fact that she peaced out as soon as it became apparent that she'd really hurt my husband, and she didn't get in touch again, I suspect that she's not going to be super willing to pitch in for medical expenses. Do we have any kind of case against her? Is it worth hiring a lawyer, or is that just going to add to the pit of debt that this wedding has put us into? Relevant comment. Freckled Kit Kat. Most wedding venues will require the purchase of wedding insurance which could cover the costs of injuries to guests. I would ask the bride and groom to see if they have a policy and if it would cover injuries. If there is coverage, then the insurance company may either cover the medical expenses or the attorney fees to sue the cousin. OP. That's a great point and not something I'd thought of. I'll ask the groom about it, but probably won't get a definitive answer until they get back from their honeymoon after the new year. Cascoco. You can also ask the venue if they require the insurance, then you get the quick answer. With the venue my wedding was held at, we couldn't finalize everything until I had the insurance purchased and sent them a copy. This way at least you know if the bride and groom should have it. Editor's note. The eggshell rule, also thin skull rule, papier-mâché plaintiff rule, or talem qualem rule, 1, is a well-established legal doctrine in common law, used in some tort law systems, 2 with a similar doctrine applicable to criminal law. The rule states that in a tort case, the unexpected frailty of the injured person is not a valid defense to the seriousness of any injury caused to them. Basically, the fact she didn't know he had brittle bones isn't a defense for the woman who broke them. She still broke them. OP. Thanks. This is useful to know. I do think it would be really hard to prove that she did it intentionally, since the whole thing was set up to look like an accident from the start. And who knows, maybe she really did trip and just happened to land directly on him. A principle of law called eggshell plaintiff, lol. I might have a new nickname for him. Boop-ba-boop. If she did it on purpose, that's battery. If she did it on accident, that's negligence. Both are equally valid things to sue for. In fact, you could possibly sue on both theories at the same time. It might change your strategy, but something being an accident doesn't mean it's not her fault. Mandatory disclaimer: I am a lawyer, but I'm not a PI lawyer, a MN lawyer, or your lawyer, and this is just me spitballing, not giving you advice. Update 1 January 11th, 2019. I just wanted to post to provide an update to my previous post here. https://www.reddit.com/r/legal-advice/comments/a7v51t/suing_for_medical_expenses _after_disaster_wedding/. First off, thank you everyone for providing really helpful input. My husband and I had pretty much just planned to pay the bills ourselves until we read through everyone's comments. My husband got in touch with a personal injury lawyer shortly after I made the original post, and he said that she echoed a lot of the advice we saw on here. Shout out to you Law Geek for introducing me to the term eggshell plaintiff, which was apparently the phrase of the hour when they talked. She said that he would almost certainly win a case against the drunk cousin, possibly for quite a substantial payout once lost wages and pain and suffering were taken into account. She added, however, that recovery could be a real issue, and the suit might not be worth pursuing if we didn't think the cousin would actually pay up. She said that he also could have a case under Minnesota's dram shop law against the bride and groom, or, more likely, the bartending service they hired. But he'd likely get a much smaller settlement because of comparative fault laws. I got the name of the bartending service, and they definitely have liquor liability coverage. I learned from the groom that the cousin is a bit of a train wreck in terms of fiscal responsibility, and that she's quite unlikely to be willing or able to pay any kind of settlement. So for now, my husband's lawyer is helping him figure out how to bring a case against the bartenders. As I mentioned, it's unlikely that we'd get the full settlement, especially if he settles out of court, which I think he'd like to do if possible, but that's completely fine because the numbers she was citing were crazy high once pain and suffering, etc., were brought into play. Even a quite small fraction, if we were able to recover it, would help a lot. As an aside, the drunk cousin apparently found out that we were considering suing her because she found my husband on Facebook and sent him a rather incoherent message about how the whole situation wasn't her fault because she couldn't have known he had OI, and in fact was his fault for not telling her. I guess she thinks he should just wear a sign at all times that says, "I have brittle bones, please do not sit on me." I thought he should reply, "Eggshell plaintiff, bitch." But maturity won out at the end of the day, and he didn't respond at all. Otherwise, his fractures are healing well, which is a huge relief, and he's a lot more comfortable than he was the last time I posted. It's a little bit of a bummer that the cousin isn't going to be held accountable for her actions, but at least it's looking likely that we won't be on the hook for the bills we had to pay. Thanks again for the help, Louisiana. Relevant comment. OP appeared on Bola and replied there. Is the lawyer aware of the Facebook messages? Yes, my husband brought it up the last time they spoke. This is second-hand. I didn't speak to her myself, so I might be mixing up some details, but my impression is that it doesn't matter all that much. Whether or not it was intentional, he has a valid tort against her. If it was unintentional, it would be negligence. If it's intentional, it would be something else. If he decided to sue her, it would probably be a relevant piece of evidence, but it still doesn't solve the problem that she's very unlikely to pay whatever the court decides she owes him. Is the cousin telling the truth about not being able to pay the judgment? I don't have any proof beyond what the groom said, but he's a very close friend and I really don't think he'd lie about it. Also, he and the bride did offer to cover half of my husband's medical expenses themselves, which was very kind, but we didn't feel comfortable accepting, especially after they'd just spent most of their savings on their wedding and honeymoon. The cousin herself doesn't have any assets beyond her car, which I can't imagine is worth much. I believe her parents are middle class, lower middle class, so there's a good chance that they'd just end up paying whatever they could from their retirement savings or something, but that also seems pretty shitty and unfair. Can one of the insured parties sue the cousin? Due to comparative fault laws in Minnesota, I think the answer is no. If we sued the bartenders and the court found them liable, they'd only have to pay the percent of the total damages they're liable for. So if they were 20% responsible and the cousin was 80% responsible, they'd only have to pay 20% of total damages. Presumably final update February 13th, 2019. Now that things have settled down a little, I thought I'd provide an update to my previous posts, original and update, about the most unpleasant wedding I've ever attended. Long story short, we didn't end up suing anyone. The woman who was responsible was unlikely to be willing or able to pay for any real damages, and Minnesota apparently has fairly strict wage garnishment laws which would prevent us from recouping even legal costs for the foreseeable future. We did also look into suing the company that provided bartending services for the wedding, but ultimately dropped that as well for two reasons. Firstly, there's a good chance that we'd lose the case and would then be out legal costs as well as medical expenses. And secondly, it seemed that even if we did win, someone who really wasn't to blame would likely be fired. There is good news, though. As someone suggested on the original thread, the couple did have wedding insurance that covered up to $5,000 in expenses for injuries to guests, which did not require establishing fault. So we were actually able to get pretty much everything paid for with that without going through the hassle of a lawsuit. It definitely wasn't the kind of payout that a personal injury suit can bring, but we hadn't really been looking to profit from whole situation anyway, so it turned out fine. Other than the highly unpleasant individual who caused the whole situation, everyone involved has been really wonderful. My husband called the hospital's billing department, and they were very accommodating about deferring payment and reducing costs that they had control over. Intimate knowledge of the hospital's inner workings is one of the major perks of OI, along with the punch card that gets you your 10th surgery free. Also, the lawyer didn't end up charging us for anything, despite the fact that she spent 3 hours meeting with my husband and presumably some extra billable time on top of that. The bride and groom have also been very helpful with the insurance and legal information and gracious about their wedding reception going south in such a spectacular manner. I do really wish that there had been some kind of consequences for the cousin beyond public shaming, but I'll just have to hope that every one of her Starbucks orders is slightly wrong for the rest of her life. Teal Dadar. Insurance ended up paying for expenses. Drunk cousin had no financial consequences, but has to live with a guilty conscience, which is a much worse punishment in the end. Who am I kidding? I really wish it had made sense to sue her sorry ass for all she's worth. Edit. Someone messaged me informing me I posted from the wrong account. Oops. I can't comment from the original account because this thread is locked, but if there's a Bola post or something I can post there. I need more coffee. Edit 2. Man, if I knew all it took to get Reddit Gold was a non-starter lawsuit and my husband breaking both his legs, I would have done this ages ago. Story 11. Entitled Mom Hits My Car, Doesn't Exchange Information, Runs Away. So I, M22, was driving last week to go pick up my younger sister from school. I recently just got a car as a graduation gift, and I pride myself on taking good care of it. So back to the story, I was at an intersection and my light just turned green. I move and out of nowhere, a car to my right completely ignores the red light she has and strikes my passenger side. I get out of my car a little in shock, and the woman, who I'd say is about in her early to mid-30s, starts yelling at me. She then asks loudly, "Why did you go through the red light?" I respond, a bit nervously because she looks pissed. I then tell her that I had a green light, and she said, "No way." I was texting, and just as I put down my phone, the light was green. I'm trying to explain how I had the green light and then I processed what she just said. Her 2 kids are yelling at me too, saying that their mom was always right. One of them, a son who I think was probably 12 or 13, got out of the car. He said I was at fault and that his mom did nothing wrong. I am going to assume he was also on his phone since, again, I had a green, she had a red. Her daughter also shouted that I was in the wrong. I asked for her insurance information because I was trying to calm down the situation as fast as possible. She then went back to her car, as did her son, and then they just sped off. I realized then she also had no plates, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I called the cops and a tow truck, and people who stayed behind to check on me validated my story to the cops. My parents are also going to kill me since they paid a lot of money for that car. I have a job too, but it doesn't pay a ton hourly, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford some of the repairs, but it thankfully wasn't totaled. I don't want to be constantly borrowing one of my parents' cars, but I am really pissed that she had the audacity to A, text while driving, B, proceed to attempt to gaslight me, and C, run off without exchanging insurance information, although it's probably unlikely she had any seeing as she didn't have plates. Relevant comments. Adam Weirdbeard. Welly, that is called a hit and run, and is a crime in most places that I'm aware of. You were the victim of a crime, reported. Your parents should be happy to see you safe and glad to help you pursue this. Alicat_222. She also mentioned she was texting on her phone. Well, no shit, Sherlock. That's probably what made you run the red light in the first place. And with kids in the car? Fuck that lady. Hockeyfan_32. Your parents are not going to kill you! This what insurance is for? Cops need a description of the car. It is not your fault. Other women committed at least 3 crimes by your description. I can tell you that where I live, we have some of the harshest penalties for texting while driving in the country. Twilight Omens. The cops will want to hear about what happened to you. I'm sure they can find the car and other possible witnesses. From Helly. Report it to the insurance, the police, and the school. Ask the school if you can look for the children's photos in last year's yearbook. You would be surprised at how often culprits are found through their yearbooks. Also, if you have time, park near the school at pickup time and look for that car. All YPU need is a plate number, which they may have by now, or take a pic of the VIN hash. It usually shows through the windshield on the driver's side. That VIN would be all you need for a police report. You can even take a picture of them and ask the person working the gate to stall them while you call the police. Good luck! OP. Different schools, they were a public school family. I saw the sticker for the school. And my sister is a private schooler. And I was still 10 minutes from picking up my sister. Update October 1st, 2024. So after my last story, TLDR, my car was T-boned on the passenger side after a woman texting ran through a red light on a busy intersection. I've got an update. After my car was towed, I went straight to the police station. I gave her and the car's description. Thankfully, there were cameras, which frankly I hadn't seen before since they were well hidden. They have the footage, and they know what to look for. They sent a police car to that school, and they quickly identified her car. EM has been arrested for reckless endangerment, driving with an expired license, driving without insurance, and hit and run. Apparently, this is the 3rd time this woman has done this, and her driver's license expired 3 years ago. Talk about being a criminal. I'm taking her to court for destroying my car and then trying to blame me. I'll post an update once the court case is over. Relevant comment. Superculture 9114. Congratulations. I bet it was a huge relief getting the info she's been found. Let's hope she gets what she deserves. Opie. If she doesn't have to pay the money I deserve, I'm gonna be pissed. Vogonskald. The problem is going to be getting her to pay. The court may rule in your favor, but if she doesn't pay, you will have to keep pressuring through the court to get anything, and she'll probably just end up being fined for not paying, which is ridiculous. Far_satisfaction_365. If she has no insurance and no job, even when the courts decree she pay for the damages, it's likely you won't see a penny. My hubby's RAV was slammed into, it was parked, by a kid driving either his parents' or grandparents' SUV. He slammed into it, no brakes, then backed up and drove off. Surprised his car was drive-able, seeing as it leaked radiator fluid all the way to the house he went into. The cops followed the trail in the wrecked SUV. Was told the kid fell asleep at the wheel. They gave the cops an insurance company nanny and policy number. Took the kid into custody for hit and run. Not given details, but it could have been possible the kid was drunk. Turned out their insurance refused to pay anything. Not sure if the insurance itself wasn't valid, or if it wouldn't cover the kid, as it's possible he wasn't an approved driver on the car or had no license. So our insurance company covered our costs and took the owners to court. Our insurance paid us for the totaled RAV. Never heard if they ever got money from the family, since our insurance company only went after them for their costs, and no one was in our car at the time, so we had no injuries. Second update, December 14th, 2024. Sorry that I haven't updated y'all on this since it's been a few days. So I went to court and won the case. She was ordered by the judge to spend 3 months in jail since this was a repeat offense. My state has some of the strictest driving laws in the country. Judge also ruled that she to give me $10,000 in damages once she's out. Now I found out more about stuff that happened from the police. After they arrested her, she apparently lied to the police because it turns out there were cameras at the intersection where this thing happened. So on top of endangering my safety, her safety, the safety of her 2 children, running off, driving without insurance, etc., she also tried to put the blame on me. I was furious when I found this out. Her 2 kids are now in the custody of their father. Sounds like they were divorced. Honestly, it seems like they should have been in his custody in the first place. I'm not expecting her to pay the money, obviously, as she lost her job, it sounds like. So, while this isn't the completely happy ending to this story that I wanted, it's still something. And for those of you wondering about the car, thankfully I come from a family that is fortunate enough to be able to pay for the damages. I had to wait about 2 weeks, but the good news is that the car wasn't totaled, and it looks even better than before. Moral of the story: don't text and drive and be a repeat offender of it. Relevant comments. Parkish, don't let her off the hook. See if you can be updated about her employment status and get her paycheck garnished. 333 Beekeeper. If she owns or mortgages her home, put a lien on it for the $10K. She has to satisfy the lien before she can sell. Titaniac 79. OP, I'm so glad you got justice. And if it's any consolation, that judgment will most likely be stapled to every job application she ever fills out. OP, that's the ultimate justice to me, honestly. Editor's note. OOP has concluded their court case, although they haven't gotten payment. I will mark this concluded, as it's unlikely to get a further update. Let me know if you disagree with this tag. Editor's note. 2. I saw a lot of people saying back to the story meant this was fake. I have ADHD distracted type, so I have some experience with this. It is hard to describe an event in a linear progression. I tend to add extraneous detail, backtrack, etc. This may or may not be the case for OOP. There are other issues with the story for sure. I just wanted to address that one. Story 12. How to get fired by your hairdresser. Original post, March 17th, 2024. So, my amazing, beautiful, super cool mother-in-law owns a high-end hair salon and is a very popular and well-respected hairdresser in our large tourist city. As everyone knows, the pandemic was particularly hard on many businesses, and especially in the way salons operate in general. When they were finally able to open again for the first time, wearing a mask was the law. Salons that did not follow this law were actively being fined and/or closed. On top of that, my husband was diagnosed with a rare form of lymphoma around that time, which makes him extremely vulnerable to any and all colds, flus, and infections. This is where the real trouble started. MIL had a longtime client named Janet, but she absolutely refused to put on a mask. My MIL explained to Janet that she had to wear one because it is the law, and she could be fined far more than her styling costs. Janet doubled down, ranting about her rights as an American, blah blah blah. Mill pushed back again with the law and the fines. Still, Janet remained unmoved. MIL now got as serious as a mom can get. She explained once again that her son has cancer. Janet rolls eyes. Yeah, I know, I read it on Facebook. Mill. Then you understand that if I get sick, I can't see my son or it could kill him. Janet, so what? Isn't he terminal anyway? Pause for shock while everyone in the salon just freezes for a second. Mill backs away from chair. You need to leave. Janet, Pikachu face. What? Why? Hairdresser #2. Get out! Get out now! Get out before I call the police! And that is how you get fired from your very expensive hairdresser. How anyone can think their freaking bleach blonde hairdo is more important than the hairdresser's child is beyond me. You know that woman has scissors in her hand, right? Little note about Hub's cancer. Yes, at the time his diagnosis was terminal, but thanks to advances in science, he is now living with cancer instead of dying from it. However, he is still quite vulnerable to germs and viruses because it's lymphoma. Relevant? Comment? Was OOP's MIL upset when Janet said that? OOP. My Mill was so upset about it, she didn't tell us that part of the story for 2.5 years. We had heard it within an hour of it happening, but that part was too much to repeat. My gut reaction to it was shocked anger, so I can't imagine what it must have felt like to actually hear it said to my face. My Mill is such a sweet lady, too. I'm glad the other hairdressers started screaming on her behalf. OP should have her MIL reach out to other salons to warn about Janet. OP. I don't know, but now I am curious. I'm going to have to ask her about that. She had been doing this woman's hair for over 20 years. But there is no one who was willing to risk their livelihoods over this, not even for a $300 haircut. Commenter 1. What the actual F? If she was in my chair, not sure she would have ever made it out. The nerve. Commenter 2. Yeah, people are really fucked up over disabilities and COVID. I was called narcissistic for saying I wanted to survive it. It really has changed my view of society. A large number of people think other lives are worthless, or certainly not worth following a simple protective rule. OOP. Yeah, it's the reason I no longer speak to one of my sisters. I don't know why she thought I'd choose conspiracy theories over my hub's life, but she did. Commenter 3. What an absolutely vile and evil thing to say. Janet is far more than entitled. Janet can't understand normal thinking. Update, December 21st, 2024, 9 months later. She's back! About 9 months ago, I posted about the most entitled hair salon client my delightful Emil has ever had the displeasure of serving, and then firing. Original post can be found here under the same title, or scrolling through my weird-ass history. TLDR. My husband has incurable cancer. My MIL owns an upscale hair salon. During the pandemic, it was not only the state law for salon clients to wear masks, but my MIL couldn't visit her sick son if she was around people not wearing masks. Client Janet's response to that was, "So what? Isn't he terminal anyway?" And boom, client fired. Apparently I left a couple of things out of the original post. First, she sings show tunes while being worked on. Her voice is fine, but absolutely no one wants to listen to someone else sing snippets of show tunes while at their own salon day. Janet would not cease doing this no matter how many times MIL gently urged her to stop. Second, on her way out of being kicked out of the salon by all the hairdressers present, Janet said something along the lines of, "Well, I'll call you in a few months when you've calmed down." That gave us a good laugh, but then, fast forward to last Wednesday, my MIL's usual day off. On that day, she has a married couple who runs the salon. They're relatively new, and weren't around for the Janet incident. Taking advantage of a Groupon deal the couple had posted for themselves, Janet comes into the salon knowing it's MIL's day off. She begins by acting like a brand new customer to the salon, but then between show tunes, yes, still sings show tunes while in the chair, she suddenly reveals she had once been kicked out and barred from this very salon. The new couple, who works as one, was shocked and confused hearing this, but not knowing the full story, just professionally finished the job and then immediately called up MIL. When they heard what had previously transpired, they were gobsmacked and extremely apologetic. But how could they know? It's not like they have a do not serve pic hanging up of the only client MIL has fired in 50 years. LOL. Obviously, the couple has no interest in ever serving her again. MIL then sent a text to Janet, ensuring she understood where she still stands. Hi, Janet. I understand you were in the salon the other day. I know it was on Groupon, and Mary was not aware that you are not welcome in my salon. The way you disrespected me in the salon at that time, and added to that the attitude you had when I mentioned that my son has cancer and that I needed to be extra careful, was atrocious. How can anyone say to a mother or another human being, "Well, he's terminal, isn't he?" In the future, please find another salon. If Janet's usual entitled streak continues and she dares retort, well, no one is going to give a shit. But it would also seem many of the predictions about other hairdressers not wanting to serve her were quite on the nose, and why wealthy Janet is now Groupon hopping through the newest stylists in town. Ha! And a note on Hubs. Since the original incident, while still incurable, he has gone from terminal to treatable. So yay, science. Relevant comment. Commenter 1. I would totally hang a do not serve pic of her behind the counter. OP. Janet just texted back, I didn't mean to offend you, but prayers work better than masks. So, yeah, I might start insisting on it. LOL. Commenter 2. She should tell all other stylists in town that she knows all about Janet being a nightmare to work with. OOP. It's been 3 years since she first got kicked out. The fact that she purposely chose my Mills day off and used a Groupon discount shows how desperate this woman is to find a new hairdresser. Absolutely nothing against Groupon. I use it myself. But it's the sign of a bad client when you find out they're Groupon hopping from stylist to stylist. When you find a good hairdresser, you keep them. My Mel had done her hair for over 15 years, and her cuts are not cheap. I wouldn't be able to afford them if I didn't get them for free. This is a rich lady who, despite being someone willing to pay $300 plus to have her hair styled, hasn't been able to retain a new stylist for the last 3 years. That says everything. OOP's Mill should speak directly to Janet about being no longer welcomed at the salon. First, she did look her dead in the eye and told her very firmly to get out of her salon immediately. It took someone else screaming at the woman and threatening to call the cops to actually make her leave. As she was leaving, this woman said something about getting in touch with MIL again when she's calmed down. Mill again firmly told her, no, don't ever come back. Second, it took this woman 3 years to pull this second stunt, so for 3 years it seemed she had indeed disappeared. Third, the text MIL sent was firm and very professional. She is a classy lady in her 70s who is completely capable of getting her point across without resorting to crass, unprofessional language, but I fucking am. She runs a high-end salon and must comport herself as such, even when her clients do not. Fourth, Janet is now blocked. She can't even call the salon or anyone works there. Fifth, karma is chasing Janet down. She can't find another experienced high-end hairdresser. This is a wealthy woman who is willing to pay $300 a cut and can't maintain a regular again. MIL had been her sole stylist for over 15 years. Even in a big city like ours, it's a small community for stylists and techs. Why go overboard when the problem is now crying in her pillow because she couldn't get her special Christmas hairdo, which used to get every single year for over 15 years because only MIL knew how to do it. Sixth, sorry this is so long, I'm just sort of delighting in all the shit this lady brought upon herself and her absolute rich lady shock of being told no. Story 13. My dad only cries and smokes once a year. I want to comfort him. Original post, December 19th, 2024. My dad only cries and smokes once a year. My mom died when I was 1 year old. She was killed by a drunk driver. Since then, my dad has been raising me by himself. I don't know how he did it, but he did a damn good job. I wasn't the best daughter, but he always stood by me and always took care of everything. He was there for every important situation in my life. From my first day of school, to my homework, to my first menstruation, to my first boyfriend, to my teenage rebel years. I love my dad, but every year on December 23rd, my heart is torn to pieces. On December 23rd, my mom passed away. Every year, my dad puts on a suit and takes cigarettes with him, even though he never smokes. On that day, he never lets me go to the grave with him. When I was 14, I followed him secretly to the cemetery. That's when I saw him cry for the first time and my heart shattered. Now I'm 18, and every year since I was 14, I've followed him secretly to the cemetery. Right now, the date of December 23rd is coming up, and I can't stay quiet anymore. I want to go with him and hug him at my mom's grave. I want to be there for him, but I don't know how to tell him. Please, Reddit, help me. Relevant comment. Commenter 1. I'm sorry for your loss, OP. It is a lovely thing to try and look after your dad. Show up and stand by him. Let him lean on you if he feels vulnerable. Get some flowers for your mom. OP. Well, that's exactly what I want to do, but my dad shunned me from it all. That's why I'm wondering how to convince my dad to let me go with him. I want to be there with him. Commenter 2. People are saying that you should just turn up, and I say, no! This is his space. This is how he grieves her loss. He has this one day a year, and you're not invited and should respect that. Give him a small bouquet and ask him to lay them from you, then leave him in peace. Commenter 3. I'm going to take a different angle on this. Maybe your dad needs this one day to himself to grieve privately. It sounds like your mom was the love of his life, and her loss was so devastating. But he knew he had to push on for you, to love and nurture you and raise you to the best of his ability. From what you say, he's done a great job. But on this tragic anniversary, he needs his time with his lost love, just the two of them. It's beautiful that you want to be there with him, support him, grieve with him. Now that you're older, gently ask if you can do that. But if he still says no, don't push it. Take that as a sign he needs to do this on his own, for himself and your mom. And also he may agree to you accompanying him next time. He knows you want to. Let him think about it. My deepest condolences to you and your dad. Update, December 23rd, 2024, 4 days later. This is an update to my last post. Thank you all for your advice. I decided not to intrude on his private ritual, but to do something nice for him. I went to my grandmother's house to get my mom's old cooking book. It was an old purple notebook where she wrote her recipes. I know my dad loved chicken stroganoff, so I wanted to make a meal that tasted like Mom's. I bought a big bouquet for him on the way home. Before I started cooking, I wanted to copy the makeup that my mom had at the wedding, but I couldn't, it was too complicated. So I at least took her earrings and put them on. Then I started cooking and put my whole heart into the food. Dad was due home in a few minutes and I was incredibly nervous. When he walked in, I gave him a big hug and a bouquet. You should have seen his face, ha. When I told him I cooked him dinner, he started joking around like he always does. But then he noticed I was wearing my mom's earrings. I saw that he had tears on the edge of his eyes. We sat down and started eating. All by himself, he started talking about my mom. He never talks about Mom, and if he does, it's only a little bit. I finally learned how they met. He always told me this silly story that when he was out for a walk, he saw crooked legs peeking out among the big grass by the lake. Well, supposedly it was my mom who was herding the geese, ha. Actually, they met at some club when they were 16 and he was smoking outside. He told me that my mom supposedly didn't like him at first. He said he was delinquent, and she was like an angel. But somehow he managed to make her fall in love with him. I wanted to dance with him after dinner. When he was younger, he loved to dance. I put on the song Nearer, My God, to Thee on TV. They played that song at their first wedding dance. He looked shocked again, and when I took his hand and pulled him out of the chair, I saw that he was starting to cry. We started dancing, and I tried to imitate the dance he and my mom had danced at their wedding. I couldn't do it, haha, but I'm glad I tried. When the song ended, something happened. My dad started crying and sobbing uncontrollably. I quickly hugged him. I started crying too, and while I was hugging him, I kept telling him how much I loved him, what a great dad he is, and that my mom would be very proud of him. He cried like that for about 5 minutes, and I kept hugging him. Probably his emotions have exploded after all these years, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad he can finally cry in front of me, too. When he calmed down, he thanked me for everything. We spent the rest of the evening watching movies. I'm glad I listened to your advice and didn't ruin his ritual. We now have a joint ritual on December 22nd. Today is December 23rd, and like every year Dad put on his suit, took his cigarettes and also the flowers I gave him. He told me with a smile that he wanted to show them to Mom. I couldn't believe he was laughing. He always looks incredibly sad on this day, but not today. When he left, I started to cry. I think my mom will be very happy to see him smiling again. I want to answer some questions you had. No, my dad never remarried. I never saw him with another woman. He still wears his wedding ring. Hell, we even have a huge poster of my mom in our living room because she worked as a model. Mom died when she was 21. They got married when they were 19. No one helped my father with my upbringing. My dad didn't have parents, and my mom's parents lived far away from us. I don't know how he did it when he was only 21, but I guess it's true that dads are heroes. Relevant. Comment? Commenter 1. I'm sorry, this is weird. It's nice to honor your mother by making her food and wearing her jewelry. But trying to match the makeup to her wedding day and the dance, it feels like you're trying to replace her, not honor her. OOP. That was not my intention at all. I just wanted to remind him of nice things and moments about Mom. And since I know next to nothing about her, I couldn't think of anything else. But it helped because he finally started talking about her. Commenter 2. I'm glad to see this update. There are two things that adult men never, ever get: flowers and compliments, affirmation. It's something that's ingrained in them, and in us as women, that those are things men don't need. But they do need them, even when they're just going through the motions every day and not acting like those are needed things. When you're seen as the provider and the strong one, it helps immeasurably to get feedback, to know that you're doing things right. Watch a little boy's face brighten when his mom tells him he's done a good job. That need to hear that he's done well doesn't just go away when the boy becomes a man. He just hides the fact that he would give anything to know that those he loves see him as successful in all the little ways that count. Good job on feeding him, both emotionally and physically. He's done a good job of raising you, and he's quite a dad. You'll find that your relationship is changing with him, that he's viewing you as less of a kid he needs to raise and more of a young adult. And that means he's going to tell you more about your mom as time goes on. Win-win for both of you. Story 14. My daughter is going to marry her two boyfriends. My daughter, F23, has been dating these two guys on and off, J, M24, and S, M23. They have been friends for years. I've known both of them since they were kids. J was my daughter's first boyfriend. After time, she started dating S. When both relationships ended, they all stayed friends until J and S started dating in college. I have nothing against gay relationships or whatever, but it's just kind of weird that two people share an ex and start dating. Well, I'm not one to judge, I guess. Now, a year and a half ago, my daughter told her father and I that she was in a polygamous relationship with J and S. She told us that she has always loved them both, and J and S were honest about how they never stopped loving her, and basically now the three of them are in a relationship. Again, I'm not one to judge or pry. I told my daughter that as long as it made her happy, it was fine. Now, she and her boyfriends went on a trip a few days ago, and last night she called us excited, saying that J and S proposed to her. Yes, both guys proposed to her at the same time, and she said yes. I congratulated her as genuinely as I could. But honestly, all this seems crazy to me. One thing is dating and another is marriage. I don't know if my concepts are very outdated. I know that open marriages exist, but this seems very strange to me. Edit. This ended up getting more attention than I expected. Thank you all for your advice. Sorry if I don't respond to all the comments. There are many, and heartfelt thanks to those who care about my daughter and those who are brutally honest. I am glad I asked for advice here. Now I don't feel so confused. Some are asking for an update. I'm sorry to tell you that there is nothing to update yet. My daughter will be back from vacation in a few days, and my husband and I, along with the boys' parents, want to talk to them to congratulate them properly, but also ask them some questions. Relevant comments. Beagle Mama. Since she can only be legally married to one, I'm assuming there will be a commitment ceremony for the other one, please remind them to talk to a lawyer and get legal paperwork drawn up to protect them. They need to cover next of kin, who can make medical decisions, property stuff, inheritance stuff, etc. And I'm happy for your daughter that she has found love. Dr. Mux. Bigamy is illegal in most places. She can marry one of them, but the other won't get the rights and privileges of marriage. If she wants to call both her spouse, she can probably do that outside the context of anything legal, and good for her for having a relationship dynamic that works for her. But marriage is a legal contract and exists in that context. Deep-fried daydream. I am assuming she means polyamory, not polygamy. There is a difference. I am in a polyamorous relationship. I am legally married to one and spiritually married to the other. Only one marriage is legally recognized. Update October 13, 2024. Hello again. Here is the future mother-in-law of two lovely boys. My daughter came back from her vacation a week ago, but I've been very busy so far, and my daughter also asked me to give her an update, and I can rarely say no to something. So let's get to it. First of all, we received the engaged trio at my house. The boys' parents, my son, and my husband and I received them with a small improvised party with a cake and a congratulations sign. I have to admit that there was a lot of emotion, and I cried a little. Of course, we took the opportunity to talk as a family about their plans for the future, since it is not legal for 3 people to marry. You were right, they know it is illegal, so they only plan to have wedding will be spiritual or symbolic in their words. For now, they decided to have a long-term commitment, since Jay will graduate from university next year, and when he starts working, he will have a pretty good salary, and that will allow them to save up for the wedding they want. We raised the possibility that only 2 of them get legally married. And yes, it is a possibility that is on the table. Apparently, all 3 agree that J and S get legally married if possible. It is not yet completely decided, and there is still a lot of research to be done. We do not know if gay marriage is also allowed in our state, so it is only a hypothetical possibility. We have talked about many things, and in fact, there are still several things that are still up in the air. I promise I will try to keep you informed since everyone has been very kind to me. I showed my kids and husband the post. My daughter was horrified at first, but not because of the post, but because apparently people on Reddit can be extremely cruel, and apparently I was lucky that people were so kind, lomao. I'm glad to say that everything is fine. My daughter thanks you for caring about her, and I thank you again for that. I'm busy with work right now, but if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. In any case, I don't know if I'll make another update on this topic since, after all, I just needed some advice and I got some good ones. Who knows? Just don't wait up, haha. Relevant comments. Triple spiral nemesis. NGL. Triple income household sounding real good right now. Potential _ad _1397. I am glad you guys all love each other. The only advice I would give the trio is to rethink which 2 get legally married. I only say this if your daughter plans to have children. This way she is protected if she ever becomes a stay-at-home mother, or if something ever happens to her, aka childbirth. The government doesn't stick their noses into it. Holy unicorn, Batman! I read something once where one of the couples got legally married and took the last name of the unmarried person, but then had a union commitment ceremony afterward for all of them. It was nice to read about. Just make sure they go through all the legal channels for medical personal issues and maybe think of a prenup. Riverfish 4557. Congratulations to you, your daughter, and your soon-to-be sons-in-law. It sounds like there's a lot of logistics to figure out with who is legally married and who isn't. Doesn't insurance and legal stuff makes love fun? Sarcasm. By in all seriousness, I'm sure they'll make the decisions that are right for them, and I wish them many years of happiness together. Story 15. Boyfriend finds Christmas present cringe and a bit embarrassing and childish. Original post December 24th, 2024. Hey everyone. Like everyone else, I'm looking for some advice for the Christmas season. My boyfriend, 25, finds my 24 present a bit embarrassing and cringe. What did I give him? Basically tickets for an MMA event that he's been wanting to go to for a long time, plus a hotel in town that weekend, plus a spa evening the day before. He thought the presentation of the present was terrible. I bought a larger box, lined it with black paper, and basically split in 2. On the left side were typical wellness essentials such as bath salts, face masks, mini towels, while on the left were typical martial arts items such as a small mouth guard, a boxing glove as a keychain, and now comes a small homemade MMA ring. Yes, the thing didn't turn out beautifully, but I still spent a really long time on it. The plan was for this box to contain clues to the present. Also in the box was a card saying what the exact gift was. At first he laughed, and I didn't think anything dramatic. Then he looked very strange and said that the ring in particular was really ugly and very childish. As I said, I know that it's not particularly nice, but you don't have to say it like that, do you? I once gave my ex-boyfriend, 26, something I made myself as a gift, and he thought it was really great. so his reaction hurt me a bit. I know you don't compare people. I'm just interested in the reaction. I had some friends over a few days before who said that it was really sweet, even though the ring didn't turn out really nice. As I said, I put a lot of thought into the actual gift, and I thought the gift was at least sweet. What can I do so that such words don't hurt me so much in the future? That was a bit of a downer for me. Thanks for reading, and to all who celebrate, happy holidays. 3. Update December 25th, 2024. Hello again. First of all, I'm really overwhelmed by all the consistently positive comments. I really appreciate each and every one, and would love to reply to everyone. I never expected there to be so many, so thank you again. Now for the update. Unfortunately, I'm in hospital, which is why I won't get the gift until Saturday, so I can't tell you what it was until Saturday. We've just talked about the relationship for a long time and in depth, and we both realized that there are a few things that we both need to work on. About the gift, he said that it was too much for him. He's not a materialistic person. He doesn't care about gifts or anything like that. Unfortunately, I can't cancel the hotel plus wellness. I would have to pay money for it that I don't have. He and I are now just going to the MMA event, and I'll do the rest on my own. That's the compromise, if you can call it that. Long story short, we're only doing the MMA event together, hotel at the weekend, and I'm doing the wellness alone. More about my present on Saturday. I'm 24, he's 25. Thank you all again. You're great, and you've really made me happy. 3. Relevant comment. Amazing_ad 42,961. But that doesn't sound like a happy ending. In the end, you back out and do everything on your own, and he's right? I honestly don't know how else it could have been resolved. If he doesn't like it, then of course it's legitimate. Unfortunately, I don't have the money to cancel. I didn't know what to do next. Amazing_ad 42,961. Food for thought. It always takes two to compromise. You met him halfway and he did? He is not a materialistic person. Oh, come on. I hate excuses like that. I am also a very rational and cold person, and I am not happy about presents at all. Nevertheless, at the beginning of our relationship, a month before her birthday, I asked my wife in detail about what she wanted for her birthday and what I could do for her on that day. Because I am not stupid and ignorant, and she is important to me. There are things that you, as a non-materialistic person, do not have to understand. Appreciate, like fob off with, "That's my humor, that's how I am," etc. You just have to blunt them and take your other half's needs into consideration. I don't know why this lack of respect from your boyfriend triggers me so much. OP. Thanks for the food for thought. There's definitely something to that. He would describe himself exactly the same way you describe yourself, except for the part about you doing it for your girlfriend's sake. He, obviously, doesn't do that at all in this case. Thanks for your words. That really helped me somehow. Louis. But it's not something material. It's an activity. And it's about being together. You should really let it all sink in and think about whether you can imagine something like this in the long term. You probably put so much effort into the gift and it ruined your joy. That won't be a one-off thing. It will happen again and again. You're still really young. You still have time to find someone who appreciates you and your wonderful efforts. OP. I understand that and see it exactly the same way. But it is too expensive and too much for him. That's why I'm asking writing here, because I don't really know how to classify it on my own. I also said that I have to process it first, and when I said that I would shorten the gift, he just said, "Okay, fine." So I think it's better for him this way. Louis. But if it's too expensive and too much for him, it's even more wasteful to let you go alone. He wanted to go to the MMA thing, but others didn't. I know how expensive MMA events can be if you want good seats. If it was too much for him, he would have told you that you can sell the tickets or something similar, but he wants to go to the MMA thing because he's interested in it. But the good time with you is secondary. I think it's so wonderful how much thought you put into it, and it could well be that it was just too much for him. But that doesn't mean that he can't appreciate what you did and be happy that he's apparently so valuable to you. It's also about how he reacted and that he doesn't see your side at all. OOP. I also said somewhere above that this change of opinion confused me a bit. From too embarrassing to too expensive. I couldn't and still can't follow that. He had given me a musical for my birthday with a hotel and everything else, so I went with that. I didn't think it was that dramatic whether it was 50 euros more or less. As I said, I went with that. If he had only given me a shirt, for example, I would have given something similar. About my girlfriend. I have a relatively easy job that pays me very well. She is a student and only has student loans. I have known her for years and therefore knew that she loves this festival. So that was okay for me, precisely because I have known her for ages and we are very different financially. I am generally very generous with everything, so I like to give something. Where that comes from? No idea. In my friendships, it is also very balanced, and has been for years. Where exactly the problem suddenly lies, and why there is a change of opinion remains unclear to me. Wikimeridance 0908. LOL. I'm really sorry, but it sounds like your boyfriend has already mentally broken up with you. I'm not a material person. He skips spending time together in a wellness hotel that can't be canceled, but does the MMA thing that you could theoretically sell on, but it just doesn't make sense. Your boyfriend doesn't like you. He's taking advantage of you. Sorry for the harsh words. I'll just take note, thank you. Comprehensive Dog 1802, another food for thought. Why are you chasing his approval so much? Imagine if a friend told you this story one. What would you say to her? My take is, the guy doesn't like you very much and isn't interested in a weekend of wellness with you. He's interested in the MMA thing, but so that he doesn't have to be grateful for it or you might expect a similar attention, he's belittling your gift and acting as if it's an imposition. I went back to your original post and looked to see if it said anywhere how long you've been together. Unfortunately, it didn't say anywhere, but I'm assuming it's not much longer than a year. In my opinion, this sets the tone for the rest of your relationship, and if you let him do it, he'll know that you'll put up with a lot for his approval. He will always make you feel like you're not good enough, somehow embarrassing or cringe, and you will always accommodate him, accepting some kind of compromise that isn't one because you're the only one giving in, and you will feel worse and less worthless. You write about this affair as if it didn't happen to you at all, but to a third person. Not a word about your feelings. Don't you feel hurt? Don't you think it's shit to treat someone you supposedly love like that? Because she did something nice for you? Stay a little more with yourself and your feelings instead of focusing so much on trying to please him. Do you like being with such a pompous a-hole? Does it feel good to put up with such a tirade and a lazy compromise just because you wanted to give him a nice present? Not really, right? Oopie. To be honest, I don't think my feelings play a big role. Why should they? It's about him and his gift. I think it's my responsibility to look for an alternative or something similar. You're actually right, we've been together for a little over a year. You're really good, haha. I've learned from this that I won't try so hard in the future. He also made it clear to me that I'm often too sensitive, and that's why I'm holding back a bit. I said that I often lack appreciation, and his objection was, well, no one is forcing you to do it, you're doing it voluntarily, and that's 100% true.